That's not working. Why isn't that working? Hello! Okay. Now that's working. Kinda. Other than the fact that it's showing my old ugly head. Like, I didn't pick up the lighter to throw it back down. I had other plans. Ooh, I need to mute that. Game music. Because I just had to take the snapshot of that little icon for the thing. I'm going to bring the camera over there in a second. First, I'm topping off my coffee. So, yes, coffee. And no, I am not proud of my 3 feet of counter space, so you're not going to see what my kitchen looks like. Not in a million years. Well, maybe in a few months after we move into a place with a kitchen. But there's seriously no counter space in this house. None. We have like the unusable corner. I made another shelf, one of them plastic Home Depot shelves, to put the microwave on. And we use the rest of it as like pantry and food storage and other shit. And the Keurig is on top of that, on top of a metal bread box. We have just enough room over there for a rack to put coffee on and stuff, and the coffee pot itself. And then there's the sink. Then there's the dish drying rack, because we don't have a dishwasher. And then there's the toaster and the can opener. And they have to switch places because there's not enough space for either one of them. So you gotta pull the can opener out this way to use the toaster. Phenomenal cosmic powers. Itty bitty living space. Yeah. Art, inspiration, music, poetry, even random events, to me, are how the universe kind of speaks to us, you know? And if I look like I'm in a better mood than usual, it's because the universe finally spoke to me. It just drastically, it's like getting my windshield wipers working, okay? Now, speaking of which, and you know, because I love to fucking interrupt myself. Speaking of windshield wipers, my truck needs new windshield wipers, but then again, you know, we need to pay bills and we can't even do that. But, today, we had a big scare. Thought the truck had broke down. It wouldn't start. It was repump the fuel pump. Me and my wife were looking at each other like, that could be like a rod having dislodged its, you know, like piston just fucking. Piston could be lodged in the cylinder with a rod just clanking around. That's what it sounded like. But fortunately, it was just bad gas. She had just got gas. I was keeping that in mind. Pre-primed the fuel pump again. Started it. You know, you gotta close the door. Make sure you can hear. Because a Honda fuel pump is, I'm not sure if that year uses a relay, but the system seems to be based off of the way the relays used to work, which is just primes for one solid little second. You can hear it. Gave it a little squirt on the gas. Just fucking dirty injector. Put some seafoam in there, because I always keep seafoam handy. Anytime you got any kind of problem with a car that seems like, you know, shit should be working, but it's clunking or sputtering, or lawnmower that won't start, seafoam revitalizes bad gas, basically. And of course, helps clean out carbon deposits very well. I love seafoam. Love seafoam. Although, since I do give automotive advice here on this channel, let me give someone right now. Some right now. Give someone right now. Here, have a person. No. Let me give some automotive advice right now. If you're going to use seafoam, use as directed. Then do an oil change with cheap oil. Okay? Use the right weight. Don't use some detergent shit. Just use basic fucking oil. You know, Castrol GTX. As opposed to, like, you know, the normal synthetic that you would use, right? And then let the carbon deposits continue, because they will continue to kind of dissolve into that new cheap oil. Drive that for about a week. Don't rev it high. Do not rev it high. Don't let it get hot. If it's in the summertime, you might consider just driving it for a day and then doing a second oil change, or doing your third oil change. Right, no, your second oil change. Yeah. It's the third oil. The oil that comes in there, the oil that you had in there when you started seafoaming, should be old shitty oil to begin with. You want to do it before an oil change, naturally, but you want to have one extra batch of oil just to absorb the shit. Okay. You want to change your old oil right after you do the first treatment. Okay. But then, as they tell you, you want to put a third of the can in your gas tank. So, drive your car around a good bit. Don't over rev it, don't overheat it. Then do another oil change. And I recommend, if your car is old enough to need to be seafoamed, that you switch over to a blend of high mileage oil and Castrol Syntec blend, which blends regular oil and Syntec synthetic polymers, but it's designed to blend well with the regular oil, so it blends well with the high mileage oil, which has additional polymers that strengthen your gaskets and stuff like that. But anyways, I've done that for years and had great results with it, including reducing the amount of oil burning in very old Hondas with dual overhead cam, you know, engines. So, and then another thing you might want to consider, especially if you like to rev up your Honda a lot, is that that silver can of engine restore. But then again, just like the other treatment, you don't want to leave one of these engine treatments in your oil. That's kind of the point of the advice I'm giving right now, is you don't want to leave any of these treatments in your oil long term. Okay, whether it's the seafoam, which is going to cause the harmful deposits to begin with, okay, and cause basically scraping, cause little micro scrapes along the walls of your cylinder. I don't mean to be doing this motion. Okay. Well, the engine restore is designed to fill those micro fissures. However, it can clog up your oil pump and restrict oil flow over time. So Yeah, just something to think about. I know, like, this isn't exactly a car show, but that's some pretty easy advice for people who aren't really mechanics, who want to do something to make their car run a little better and don't have the money to get actual overhauls done. Seafoam, if done the proper way with that kind of caution, can improve performance on a high tolerance Honda import type engine. Thing is, Seafoam's designed for two strokes and big blocks and shit like that, right? And you don't necessarily want to just do it in a regular car. I mean, in an import, without taking some extra steps to make sure the delicates don't get damaged, right? Anyways, poor CRV. I just put the Seafoam in the gas tank this time. If you're just putting the Seafoam in your gas tank because you have bad gas, no additional steps necessary. You might want to check the oil in a few days, because that's how you will discover if your engine had carbon deposits to begin with. But that's a swapped engine. Yeah, my CRV is JDM engine. 10 more horsepower. Nice. At this point, it's probably 12 less horsepower than that, but it's only 2 less horsepower than stock would have been. So, yeah, for a fucking 15-year-old truck, that's pretty good. But anyways, I'm going to check the oil in a few days. See if it turns black. I checked the oil today when I did it. Nice and golden brown. Surprisingly good for how old that oil is, actually. And if it turns black, I'll know that I had some carbon deposits in there. If it doesn't, I ain't worried about it. But if you have those carbon deposits, you don't want them getting in your oil, because then they'll get around the cylinders and they'll scrape on the side. And there goes your compression. There goes your power. There goes your gas mileage. There goes the overall life of your engine. Anyways. But I suppose, as much of a sidebar as that was, it at least, demonstrates that despite the fact that I'm talking about the Underworld on a video game, my brain still functions. I am, as previously disclosed on the new Lost Begotten, former Sean Morris channel, I am borderline competent. Just borderline. Just, I like to casually dance along the line of genius and insanity. I like karate chop my camera, phone thing, laptop without a keyboard. Anyways, I guess I'm getting old, but I'm really starting to miss just like phones that were phones. We had laws against the government tapping on us, tapping our phones, but apparently corporations, and therefore foreign governments through corporations, they tap whatever they want because spyware. But anyways, so I've been playing Lightning Returns a lot lately. And it's been making me focus on the story. That story or my story? Yes. Paper or plastic? I don't know. Both. Got a long trip ahead of me. And yes, I make the paper or plastic joke a lot. But I used to fucking bag groceries, so, yeah. I'm allowed to. I've earned the right. I was a good little bag boy. Oh, good overgrown bag boy. Good Sasquatchian bag boy. Anyways. But the universe. God has given me a sign, if you will. But I had to make this video because I got to this part of the game again. This game, you kind of play it over and over again, and you up your difficulty level, and you go hunting super bosses and shit, right? And it's more of a... It's a game that they've attempted to make interesting enough to be repetitive, but not repetitive. Each difficulty level provides unique interactive challenges as well as playability challenges. Anyways. It's a lot like the different realms. The different states of existence, if you will. But this game is about the need for a goddess to realize her own power and potential. To basically take the place of a goddess who was destroyed, deposed, defeated, whatever. And of course it may be that lightning was the goddess the whole time, just an incarnate being. There's clearly a lot of innuendo of reincarnation, so I think freely interpreting things as being due to reincarnation on Final Fantasy storyline in general, not a stretch. There's a piece of ash on there. I thought it was fucking something on my mustache for a second. Okay. Oh, look. I managed to ash all over my fucking lap. There, it's an ashtray. I'm gonna use that modern invention. Clean my fucking phone. Okay. Anyways. So, I'm going to specifically discuss some things about heaven, the future, the past, the ultimate realm, the other realms, the interactivity between realms, the rules, the boundaries, the experience of it all. After I tell you just how clearly the universe spoke to me. Okay. Now, on the Sean Morris channel, on the Lost Begotten channel, on my other channel, and I don't know why I picked this channel to make this video, but yeah, whatever. This is pretty good stuff, and it's video game related, so yeah. I do automotive and gaming and general interest stuff, because that's what people who are interested in keeping reef tanks the easy way are usually interested in. They're interested in video games and cars and, just like borderline geeky but still masculine kind of guy shit, right? Like Call of Duty, like. But, I don't want to sit here and defensively justify my fucking existence on YouTube. I think it's all been pretty proven to be a preposterous platform. Anyways, why my head chooses now to start itching, I have no idea. Must be turning dry. It's been quite humid, raining almost every day. But nobody said it was going to be easy. But occasionally, something happens that just makes sense. And not just like a random coincidence, but like a deep interwoven series of things and perceptions and ideas and occurrences. And it all just, boom, hits you. I'm on the right path. Despite all my doubts, somehow, on the other channel, I was trying to remember a song. I don't know if anyone's in the chats right now. I haven't seen any chats pop up just yet, but if you were watching the Lost Begotten channel, I was trying to remember a song from my college choir days. And it's an ancient song, and I remembered the shape, blocking the quality of the Xerox copy, the paragraph form. I remember the font, the quality of the font. I remember several of the lines of the writing, but I couldn't remember quite the melody. I couldn't hardly remember the melody. I couldn't remember any of the words. I was just drawing a complete blank. I was thinking of other songs, and today I was trying to remember it again. And I thought of a fucking Latin song, and I thought of another Italian song. I couldn't think of this ancient Latin chant. Well, on the game, there's this particular bad guy that has an ability that I really like called Elementa. Well, it's two forms. There's the basic spell, and then there's the broad, more powerful spell that's like slower, uses more ATB, and then there's the basic one that's still powerful, but it's quicker, it uses less ATB. Well, this enemy, this bad guy, can only be found at the last stage of the game, right before you fight the final boss. So, like, you have to, like, play through the whole game just to get to where you can mine this ability, right? And, I was there, I was happy, and I was, looking up what the last ones, like on this game, there's a final quest where this one guy wants to collect samples of all the last ones before the world ends, which is if a species is driven to extinction, the last of the species like gains all the power of the other animals, right? That's just on the game, right? It's an interesting concept and may have been true in another time and dimension, but certainly not a scientific proposition, right? But on the game, the last ones are like kind of little bosses. And I wanted to know how many I had to fight to get the last one to show up. I wanted to know what he was going to drop. He wound up dropping Elementa level 4, which is nice. But anyways, I was going through the list of the last ones, and I got to this guy. And it's called an Archangeli. And as soon as I read that, boom, the writing on the page, the font on that page that I remembered. And the next line, Canut Justi, Dicentes Gloria in Excelsis Deo, Alleluia. Hodie Christus natus est, was the song that I was trying to remember on the stream yesterday. Hodie Christus natus est. The bad guy I was hunting on the game, the name of a ancient Latin word for archangel that's in the song that I was just dying to remember. And I don't know if y'all could tell by how hard I was trying to remember it and how much it was fucking with me that I couldn't remember it, but it was like one of the most meaningful things. Like of all the things that I had seen in college choir that I just really wanted to hold on to and remember, you know? And just in case you're interested, there should still be the college choir performance of mine, of ours, of Handel's Messiah on this channel. ACC Community College Choir, Handel's Messiah. Yeah. I don't know how well the search results are going to actually work, but it was well tagged then ago. But yeah, I was wondering, you know, at this point where I can only do so much as far as fish tank maintenance goes. I don't have the resources to do like the necessary overhauls that I want to do to keep the Callirpa from fucking overtaking shit, so wins and losses there. The only real losses I'm having as far as the Callirpa takeover goes is the mushrooms. The mushrooms just, they keep disappearing underneath the fucking Callirpa, right? But didn't get the grant. Haven't had much luck finding investors. Got another person, friend of an aunt, wants me to email them the business plan. And frankly, I'm tired of giving away a plan that somebody else can just fucking take and use, you know? or take what they want from it. So I've been depressed. I've been looking at job ads, trying to see if I can find myself some part-time work. And not even the little used car lots have ads up that they're hiring. And believe me, they'll put an ad up on Craigslist the day that they're fucking hiring. Now, that's not to say if I really wanted to take that bullshit fucking job, I could go in there and probably talk my way in to one of those places. Odds are there's 3 of them within a reasonable distance. But I tell you what, living out in the fucking country, a job that somebody with a bad back, and I mean a really bad back, it's kind of hard to come by. So I've been depressed. I don't really have the time between running kids around and dealing with the fish tanks and taking my wife to the doctor, groceries and errands, and up at fucking 5 in the morning every day if I even sleep. A little time in the afternoon that I'm thinking about working, that's the time that I sleep. So in order to keep myself from going insane and just being pissed off all the time, I'm playing the video game. And to keep the voice from overwhelming me, this is a fucking waste of time. What are you doing? You're fucking pushing 40 and you're playing a fucking video game, dumbass. Get off your ass and find something productive to do. Well, there's nothing fucking productive I can do within the fucking practical limit of reason. I'm just like stuck with potential but no kinesis, you know? Playing a fucking video game. What's the point? Well, it's about a very similar situation to the greater purpose of my life. I just can't imagine who those 2 people were. They just come in for a couple seconds. What did you think this video was going to be about? It's going to be somebody talking and explaining something. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I speaking as if I believe that was anything more than fucking third-party software agents? Anyways. So, this game. At this point, in Lightning Returns, it takes place in an underworld that's like post-Underworld. The Underworld has been mostly destroyed. And this is all that's left of it. And there's this ocean of chaos that's kind of encroaching and just consuming everything. Because souls aren't being reborn, and Yeah, if you haven't got into the game, spoiler alert, the unborn souls, basically, because of their potential but lack of kinesis, they become the chaos. Which is not too far from the truth as I see it. Or as I recall it. Now, on the other channel, I discussed how there's this lighthouse, and then I'll explain why the lighthouse is there. It's called the Oasis Lighthouse. And it resembles a structure. It's fallen apart, dilapidated, but it resembles this structure that's in the middle, and it's on the icon for this broadcast, that's in the center of Valhalla, or what's left of Valhalla, the Underworld. And it's basically the goddess's castle. And this lighthouse looks like the castle. I mean, clearly meant to resemble each other because of the way the spiral staircase is broken apart. And let's go ahead and stand my happy ass up. There's Dingo. And you can see there's kind of this central spire right there. But this weird chaotic stuff, instead of the spiral staircase leading upward, it's on top of this castle. And that's the scene looking outward from this final dungeon place, right? And if you look, there's like a lighthouse. Look at that. That's a lighthouse. And it's the only other building with the green shit. It's interesting. There's a lot of steeples, bell tower steeples, but that's a lighthouse. See, it's on the shore. Lighthouse. Now, I'm going to change the view on the camera. There's a lighthouse that looks just like the lighthouse from my memories and dreams. Off the coast of South Australia, that's collapsed into the water, kind of tilted to its side. It's like the remnants of a lighthouse. I have that off the shore. There's Valhalla over there. Why does my fucking thing just keep randomly pausing? Game controller's kind of screwed up, I guess. Oh, and J-Rock's chats all showed up at once. Hey, Jared. Jesus, Jordan. Jesus. Yeah, I'll just call you Jesus. How about that? Anyways. So, well, let me not do the shaky camera thing. As I've explained previously, although I don't know how recently on this channel, my memories immediately before this lifetime involve basically appearing on the shore of a little river with some reed grass, and after finding a pan flute kind of buried in the dirt, meeting a woman who kind of claimed to be my mother and said I was going back to the world. Don't quite know what she referred to it as far as like a word, but here. And to get here, she walked me up a lighthouse. And in that lighthouse, there were mirrors that kind of peered into your soul and checked you for memories of all of your different lifetimes. And then here in this game, in the Underworld, at the center of it, there's this lighthouse. I don't know what if there's an actual mythology that involves something to do with a lighthouse in Valhalla. But apparently there's a lighthouse in the middle of this Valhalla. And something else interesting that I spotted, which relates to a lot of different lessons I've taught. Regarding the difference between stars and realms, or the fact that they're kind of the same thing, or souls, or gods, or why did it pause again? And does it auto-pause after a certain amount of time sitting still? That would actually make sense. Good programming, even. Could be. I just figured I have a fucked up controller because my fucking controllers are fucked up. So, let me stand back up again. Oh, wait. I'll light another cigarette first. Wait, no. Take another sip of coffee first. Because how will the cigarette taste properly? Proper? Yeah. Oh, apparently the third person spy didn't want to know what the fucking tandemness of a star and a realm might look like, how they might wrap their little brains around it. Well, here's a very simple way to wrap your brain around it. Hey, look, realms. That's what those are. See, what you're looking at is the future past. And in the present, those realms are stars. Is Pluto a planet? That's 8, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, like from here, it doesn't look like those are that big, right? But imagine, say for instance, just for instance, hypothetically, if that plane over there were as big as a flat Earth. Imagine how long it would take you to travel there. You get to where it filled up your entire vision before you even got close. It's kind of incomprehensible. And eventually, due to changes in the hierarchy, so to speak, those places got perceivably further away and became round. Now you see, I don't disagree that those are spheres, and they do what they do. They go in these big circles that we can observe. But you see, the reason each of those planes exists is the same reason why Valhalla exists. Because the goddess of death manifested it at the end of a world in order to save all the ones that she loved and who, in her eyes, she deemed worthy of salvation. And there, she and they collectively manifested a place to live based on their understanding, and the ether around them, or the chaos, took the form of the ocean that surrounds them, because that is the way they perceive things. So the manifestation of chaos forms to expectation. Isn't that the Geissenberg principle or something like that? The quantum expectation theory. Definitely autopause. At the same time. Just did it again. So, I do not think, based on at least what's been made available to me, that there's any reason to think it has been determined whether the present state of this physical reality, this plane, has likewise become a sphere or not. I just know some people bullshitted me, and I want to know why. Because it all seems rather suspicious when you take the preponderance of the data into effect, which is going back to, yes, in a way. I do that a lot. Howdy, Rolf. Rolf asks if we're looking at truth in some video games. Yeah. We've discussed how Final Fantasy X relates a lot to how the world ended 2,000 years ago and was remade, and how false religion kind of caused it to be needed to be redeemed. But anyways, that was a time before chauvinism. In fact, I think that might even represent more along the lines of some precursory time or dimension. But anyways, 13 is sort of an intermediary story to that. Kind of like the fall of Eden, basically. And shows a new physical world being reborn out of chaos after the goddess defeats a false god. And the goddess is incarnated in human form, a human form that has to endure trials in order to gain her power back. And then conflicts herself between her humanity and her power and its detraction from her emotional attachment to the very people she's trying to save. Wonder what that's like. But anyways, I'm still kind of blown away by the Archangeli being the name of that thing that I was hunting. I didn't realize it until I was looking at the last one's quest, trying to finish this last one's quest. And this guy that I couldn't wait to kill a bunch of because he drops Elementa, an element. And then when you kill the last one, he drops an Elemental level 4. And that happened to be the keyword, like basically the most significant word. Like when I read it back in the day, like I kind of knew like in the future this would like bring me back to this somehow. Back when I was like trying to remember that, I was like making sure like, remember this, make sure you remember this, dumbass, get it in your fucking skull. Okay, I really wanted to remember that thing, and I was having so much trouble yesterday and earlier today remembering it until Archangeli. It was like ding. I started remembering more and more of it all of a sudden, and then found it on the internet, no problem. Hodie, Hodie, Christus, natus, Natus, est, est. Hodie Christus natus est. But yeah, that made me feel like I'm definitely not wasting time analyzing this game that I'm spending so much time analyzing. And it's making me think not only of like people that died recently. My dead sister, for instance, lightning's trying to save her sister, her soul. Um, but there's a lot of different aspects of wisdom and the difference between wisdom and what most people perceive as the truth. And on one hand, you might see this game as some woman becoming an anti-God type figure and killing God and just using God for whatever. But if you're an actual educated person who understands esoterics, this guy, Benevelza, the god, is obviously Lucifer. They describe him very clearly as such, the god of the physical realm. And when they show him, he's all gold and shiny and big fucking horns and everything. And he cannot see into the souls of humans. That's not the God I know. But, anyways, as someone should know, Lucifer was cast down to the earth after being the most magnificent created being. And is, as such, considered to be the god of the, or the lord of the material world, the physical realm. Now, take that into consideration with the idea of heliocentrism versus planar realmism, if you will, okay? Lucifer, Baal, okay? Wanted to create his own heaven by taking over the earth, by taking it from man, by enslaving their minds, okay, by enslaving them, first attempt, and now since then by enslaving their minds. Now, if God saw mankind worthy of traveling to the stars, God would make the earth round himself. And the earth would be round and we don't know it. Really? At 3 o'clock in the fucking morning, you fucking dumbass? The drunk neighbor with the pickup truck. I love the sound of the second pickup truck having to go tow it out when it gets stuck. Which is almost every fucking time. Anyways. So, basically, the laws of reality are determined by the wishes of the collective, by the perception of the collective. In an ocean of chaos, we manifest what we see as having structure. And we all agree upon the rules of this reality, so we all perceive it as we do. And that is how it was created from the beginning. That's how we were all taught from the beginning. That's just a coalescent chain of events. But if you want to take just a manifested reality and make it physical, make it gravitational and heliocentric, what you need to do is first conquer the other realms so that the ancients of power, the rulers of those planes, agreed to become balls, to appear as orbs, and to orbit the throne of Lucifer, the sun. Now, in doing so, they can convince people through observation and speculation, interpretation, basically, that the place that they're living isn't a manifested spiritual reality, but is in fact a physically formed gravitational ball floating amongst other physically formed gravitational balls. And thus, Lucifer and the ancient gods convince humanity that there's no God out there. There's just space. And look, there's no heaven because we're in space. And up, it's not heaven, up is space. And we're in it. And we're in the heavens. We're floating in the heavens. Babylon 2.0. Why build a tower when you can just convince everybody that they're already there? And through convincing everybody that they're already there, they may, in fact, be there. At least for a time. Anyways. I was thinking about future selves and how through reincarnation and through earning our right to be reincarnated, through basically preserving our sense of self and preserving our spirit and standing up for what we believe in, basically, you stand for something or you fall for anything. And having, core principles that aren't affected by the bullshit of the world. We reincarnate as coherent beings over and over again until in the ultimate future, we exist in the same place that it all began from. And the different windows that you can see. There's a picture of Cocoon looking like the Underworld 1.0. And then there's Valhalla, which looks like the last Underworld that I visited. And then there's the image of destroyed Werba. Which is like this the Garden East of Eden, where demigods enslaved man, kind of, or had a subjugative arrangement, to say the least. But anyways, it seems like there's a lot of just weird connections to this. Like the dead sister, for once. The fact that, not just my sister being dead, okay, but the whole idea of Hathor and Isis, they used to be sisters. I mean, we all used to get along, okay? And there was a dimension before Eden that resembles a storyline. And let me just say this, dimensions that existed, like precursory dimensions that existed before the Garden of Eden, okay, before this future past, things that actually, like only God can know about. That even like your ultimate selves aren't privy to because of yourselves, but only because of God and Goddess allowing you access to these dimensions in order to learn these lessons. They are stories, they're fables, they're little fairy tales that you experience with like morals, and they're like trials and tests almost. Well, they are, but fairy tales almost. And it's almost 3 a.m. and I'm getting tired. Oh, coffee, there we go. Liquid sleep. So, I'm thinking of too many different things at once. Ah, shit. Okay. My hand is cramping up. So, these are layered events, and they don't occur in direct sequence, but there's like different little, I guess, kind of hints and indications in the game. And I welcome you to go and see like somebody who's posted one of those nice edited storyline or only versions and see if you can follow it well enough. But you'd probably have to watch it a few times through, just as I've had to play it a few times through, to really grasp and meditate on the different things. And obviously, this is not one of the things that you'd be able to come to, because, like I said, this is a reality that existed before anything humans can know about, except for what the muses have told you through the fairy tale Frosty the Snowman. Now, Snow the guy who's basically engaged to marry the sister that's dead. Snow, trying to save the world, winds up responsible for the death of Hope's mother. Okay? Hope is a little kid, little boy. And Hope wants to kill Snow. Hope, who wanted to kill Snow, who's involved with the two sisters, and is the bad guy, not the good guy. The opposite word. Little Hope sees his mom get killed. Blames Snow for it, because Snow tried to save her and couldn't, basically. All sounds very metaphorically familiar as far as me and Hathor goes. Hope winds up creating a new fal'Cie, a new technological proto kind of god. For supposedly good reasons, but it doesn't really seem like a good idea. It doesn't really turn out very well in part 2. And Hope winds up being the voice of Benevelza, Lucifer, the little boy who wanted to kill the snowman. Frosty the Snowman represents the dimension in which I allowed them to create me. Snow, the boy, wants to kill him, winds up creating Lucifer. Horus the Younger. I want to hear your comments. Say something about that. I just want some sort of reaction about that before I call it a broadcast here. Because on top of the Lighthouse thing, on top of Archangeli leading me back to the freaking song that I thought was just like ancient and meaningful. And by the way, you should look up that song and look up a translation to it, because it's very beautiful. Pure, in fact. I had already realized the thing about Snow and the snowman, but I hadn't connected the Hope thing until just now. Hope wanted to kill Snow, winds up becoming Lucifer, basically. But by defeating Lucifer, Lightning basically redeems Hope and he becomes a little boy again. Interesting. Oh. Let's see, did anybody type? Would it show me? I don't know. Oh, nobody, no comment. Come on, somebody comment. And tell me what you think about that. Because basically the story of Horus the Younger is the son of Hathor, and like I said, it overlaps. It's not directly, but, you know, because Nora isn't, you know, one of the two sisters, but she dies. One of the two sisters dies. Okay. But Nora, Hope's mother, seems to me to represent Hathor because she got some big old titties. Okay. And if you look at old considerations of that goddess, usually depicted with some giant fucking tits. Usually just a big, curvy woman. Anyways, you know, mother, right? Well, Hathor, story goes, she has Osiris's brother poison him by seducing him, and then has sex with Osiris's corpse so that she can have a son who will be king. Okay? A rightful heir to the throne of the universe. And that son is Horus the Younger, or Lucifer. I'm tired. Liquid sleep. Liquid sleep. And now in the game, you have Lightning and her sister Sarah, who dies traveling through time, basically. And because of their failed attempt at saving the world, everything's falling apart through entropy. Oh, look, your likes disappeared. The likes have disappeared. It is now on 0 likes. Oh, don't forget to click like button again, because, yeah, maybe it'll stay that time. But anyways, the entropy that gets caused when you think about it, actually, if I can add some of my wisdom to the interpretation of the game. Once someone, or in this case, and in the actual case, a pair of people time travels, they essentially become masters of a separate universe because they alone have the power to affect everything. You can go back far enough in time to change whether or not someone was born or a nation was founded. But by doing so, you detach yourself from the natural, linear order of things. That's why time travel is impossible, because by time traveling you become God. So that basically, when they call you know, the Messiah or God, the traveler or the sleeper. Traveler means traveler through time. Only incarnate God can travel through time. Because that essentially is one of the definitions of God. But I don't recommend it. It's rather disorienting. Especially when you get back to where you were. Anyways. So, by time traveling in the game, they create sort of a paradox in which they're in a dimension that the other souls, all the other souls, but theirs, are divergent. Paradoxically divergent. Okay? And thus, there would be a problem with them being reborn. See, because they're not in the same fucking dimension anymore. So that's why the entropy takes hold from the unborn souls and the energy gathering outside of the physical universe and basically starting to cancel it out like antimatter. And in fact, in my opinion, if there is such a thing as antimatter, that's about as close as you would get to it. Now, a similar situation has been developing in our little reality for quite some time. And when I woke up in 2011 and could see, you know, simultaneously all the realms, what I saw was really disheartening, horrifying, saddening, all those kind of adjectives at once. The vast majority of dead people, souls, that is, weren't fucking going anywhere. They were in lines with these chains of red abyssal energy, which there's a lot of in this realm. A lot of. I mean, it's everywhere. It's not supposed to be this way. Well, the basically way to the underworld, okay, you know, the lighthouse to get back to this plane from the underworld. The way to the underworld, is a series of constellational realms called crystal palaces. And the crystal palaces were covered in these like giant red forged, like metal but made of red abyssal material, forged chains just wrapped around the entire fucking palace. Now, before I get into the similarities of that situation in the game, let me explain that leading up to the exorcism that's on video on the other channel, actually, no, I did post it on this channel, where the black hole appears in the sky. Just before that was when I realized it wasn't a chain. It was a Leviathan. And it was keeping all of those souls from entering the Crystal Palace. It had somehow stopped the flow of things, and I didn't understand it at that point. I understood the being itself. I understood our past. I understood what it had against me. I understood what it wanted. And I knew how to deal with it. And prophecy in that case helped. And I sat and I read the book of Revelation as I filmed that video. And cast him back into the heaven for judgment. Ooh, a piece of Calurpa has gone astray. It's always fun with that big wave maker, just watching the fucking just go back and forth. Anyways. What was I talking about? I don't know. Some random stuff. Nothing important, I'm sure. But the, I guess the game parallel is a lot less important than what's fucking going on right now. But, in the game, because of their time travel, because of the changes they made, basically as gods, because they were time traveling, right? Through godly activity, through basically the power of creation, by technological gimmick means, right? They have caused this splintering of reality in which souls cannot find their way back to a common place. And one might even interpret it as hope creating this Lucifer fal'Cie. I don't know which way to plug in my charger. I think it's that way. One side just stopped working. It used to be I could plug it in either way. That was the one good thing about the fucking iPhone. SE. It's the iPhone for not so fancy people. I'm definitely not so fancy. Look around me. My attempt at a backdrop. Oh, look at my fancy backdrop. Oh yeah. Live from the Hollywood green screen studio of science. It's Giant Forehead Man. Anyway. So yeah. What you're looking at is limbo. The chaos in the game. This chain of souls that I saw. Now, Wiccans and mystics and different spiritual type people have known about the Crystal Palace that floated above Lake Pontchartrain in New Orleans for as long as I lived there. This isn't some thing that I made up, okay? But it actually took me a few seconds to realize, wait, that's the Crystal Palace. Wait, how the fuck? They actually know something. Oh yeah, Azarkael, the witchcraft demon, probably taught them about that from the beginning. Or something like that. Like, the fact that they've managed to summon something like Azarkael, they had to be on some kind of right track, right? But these are these crystal palaces are sort of shards of the goddess, and they allow the return of souls. And they're basically meant to attract them. They look like the gateway to paradise. They look a lot like on the Neverending Story, the ivory tower, only not as symmetrical. From a distance, that's how they look. They're not a light at the end of a tunnel. That's a neurosynaptic response from your eyesight dissolving when you die. That's before you actually finish dying, if that happens. Anyways. What would I know? I'm just a crazy guy on YouTube. I think the fact that the people with the 666 as their logo want to suppress my broadcast. No, I bring my own speech impediments to the table. I think the fact that the 666 people want to suppress my broadcast and troll monitor me and all this other bullshit is not just proof of everything I say. Because, you know, if it's just some harmless nonsense, why not let it loose, right? But let's just say it keeps me motivated. Knowing that evil fuckers don't like me makes me feel like I'm on the right track. Just like that ancient Latin song that I could not fucking remember for the life of me. I could remember the blocking, I could remember the copy. You know, like when something is like a little piece of paper put on a Xerox machine, had that little shadow thing around it, kind of right. And I remembered it probably was a copy of a copy because of how badly the fonts came through, right? But then I'm fighting this guy on this game that I'm sitting there meditating and praying over and stuff like that, and it's making me think about my wife and like how much she's gone through and how much you fuckers have put her through, and how she needs to seize her potential, and how the world needs to see her for what she is again, instead of for the mistakes of her sister. The game that has the goddess and the sister and the snowman and the Lucifer little boy and the Lucifer false god, and somehow has all those things in it. The bad guy that I'm literally fighting the game over and over again just to mine the ability from, just so I can fight it on a harder level with more enjoyment, because the spell is fucking awesome. Elementa. I'm doing this Monster Quest thing, and I get to him, and I'm like, how many of him do I get to kill before the last one shows up? And, ooh, wait, what does the last one drop? Elementa level 4, yes. The name of it, I didn't realize. The name of it is the same as the main word. The one single word in that whole song that stuck out to me, that I knew like would be like the one word that I would use to remember that song. I couldn't think of it yesterday when I was doing the broadcast. I couldn't think of it earlier today when I'm thinking. I'm going through like every fucking college choir song I could remember, just one after the other, annoying my wife just sitting there singing them, half-ass. Archangel. Well, I saw that and I dropped my phone like, ooh, the song. I dropped my phone like pointing down to it. Ooh, the song, the song. And my wife's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I explained to her, and I was like having a moment. And she was like having the moment with me. I'm like, good times. Because she knows I've been fucking depressed and frustrated. And yeah, I don't like sitting around with my thumb up my ass, that's for sure. Look at me working out every day because I don't have anything useful to do. Pretty interesting. A lot of different connections. A lot of different ways that seems to relate to our situation now. You see, I remember creating not so much a universe as you might think of a universe, but more of a interactive, reprogrammable, or interprogrammable reality. And the beings from those realities are what essentially created the first reality. Then that was destroyed. And then a backup plan sort of being created another reality. And then that was destroyed. And then I created another reality. And that was destroyed. And then the one who destroyed it, his mother, created another reality. And that was destroyed. Seeing a pattern here? And then he, Lucifer, created a reality. And then his little brother stole it from him. And then that was destroyed. No, wait. That part hasn't happened yet. But all I gotta say is if you think that life is something to be taken for granted, that God owes you something, I suggest you reconsider. Because everything you know has a habit of passing away. And you see, my standards are simply based on what it takes for a soul to survive. So guess what happens if you don't meet my standards? Not so nice knowing you. Although I will admit, there's, a lesson to be learned from every douchebag on the fucking planet. Here's another example of what not to do and why. Here's why it's worthwhile to be a good person. Because after all, if you didn't know what farts smell like, you wouldn't appreciate roses quite as much. Like people just have the wrong idea about what it means to be God. Think that God has no rights. That's how much you've bullshitted yourself. You think that God has no rights. You don't think that that's what you think, but that's what you think. God must conform to your standard. What would be the point if the air smelled like roses? What would be a point of never smelling a fart? And speaking of farts, do you deny God the right of feeling the pleasurable relief that a good fart provides? How is this thing that you consider, this thing that you've been taught in this dumbass fairy tale wannabe world that you live in, has made you forget about your own past lives, forget about reincarnation in general, made you think that you're allowed to fart, but God can't. God is beyond farting, somehow. Why? First of all, that thought is extra biblical. It contradicts Scripture. You were created in God's image. So guess what God looks like? Yeah, flesh and blood, just like you. Now, one must consider the corporeal form that a God must take in order to fail to interfere with free will in general. Let's just say that if God were to manifest in godlike form, it wouldn't be much of a social event. because of the overwhelming nature of the amount of knowledge, experience, and power that you would be forced to perceive, because of the trivial nature of everything that comprises you, your very being would cease to exist. You would simply give up as a soul and dissipate. Now, even in a lesser form, like Superman. Superman? Oh, everybody believed he was Jesus if he was like Superman. Then you have a key point in understanding the problem that we face right now, which I was discussing on the broadcast on the previous channel. Free will. God did not create man as programmed NPCs. Okay? God created man to make choices. God created man to choose whether to love a woman or use a woman. God created women to choose whether to love a man or use a man. God created a choice whether or not to believe in God, even. Whether or not to be thankful for your own existence. Whether or not to give reverence to what it is you don't understand. Seems like a psychological healthy thing to me. Psychologically. Seems like a grammatically incoherent thing, right? So, if I was like, I'm Jesus, look at me fly around the world and throw buildings and shit. What would Neil deGrasse Tyson have to say about that? You know, if I could just appear out of nowhere, like teleport in, okay? Because, you know, I'm Superman. Teleport into the Neil deGrasse Tyson appearance on Letterman, Leno. What's the name of, like, people that are doing things now? On Letterman or Leno, yeah. Speaking of time travel. On Jimmy Fallon, okay. Neil deGrasse Tyson's on Colbert. Yeah, Colbert. And then I just pop right in, okay? And I start telling him about all his little worries from childhood and start telling him about his dead relatives and like go the full crossing over with John Edwards route after teleporting in on national fucking television. What's Neil deGrasse Tyson going to say? What's anybody who sees that going to say? Are they going to have a choice to continue to experience creation as it was designed? Is it going to be possible for them to continue to experience creation as it was designed? Are they going to have free will at that point to decide whether or not to believe in God, to decide whether or not to believe this Superman is who he fucking says he is? The only way they would have a choice whether or not to believe Superman was or was not Superman is if Superman's powers were just limited enough to where they had a reasonable doubt. Or he was just powerful enough to where it seemed like the universe saw him as significant in some way. And in fact, if you really take into consideration the fact that God created everything and has a plan, and, you know, God is God, not some fucking dumbass, you might consider the fact that the only reason he would come here in such a form is if we had all become so stupid that our free will was compromised. And he wouldn't come here and smash reality and give us no choice but to have our ideal free will back. He would simply say, hey, wait a minute. You don't have free will because of this. You might want to stop that from happening. That's all. Later. Let me know if you need anything else. Oh, but prove that you're Jesus. Give us a sign. Follow the shoe. Follow the gourd. Follow the shoe. Follow the gourd. How about if what I say is true? If the danger that you cannot see, that I have said, is there lurking, turns out to be a thing, guess what that means about me? Judge not, lest ye be judged yourselves. Yo ho. Liquid sleep is working. I wonder if there's any left in my wife's cup. Give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire. What, I'm not allowed to like Metallica either? Jeez. I mean, yeah, they make fun of me a little, but still. I got thick skin. Fucking guys are talented. And so are their demons, apparently. That's... Some metal musicians just seem to have talent beyond human capability. Or is it just me? Maybe it's just me. You know what might shock the shit out of you? Shock the shit out of me. If you like really complex orchestral type metal, okay? Not like violins and shit. Like when the metal achieves orchestration, you know, you have to really know what I'm talking about to know what I'm talking about. And when you like a drummer who sounds like more than one drummer, you know what I'm talking about? Go to McAllen, Texas, on the Mexican border. And from there, like all throughout that little border region, you will find these local bands that tour around to the different bars and clubs that are unfucking believably talented. I mean, you'll never understand a word they're saying. I don't know whether it was English or Spanish or Swahili. Fucking, I don't... Yeah. But I was just sitting there watching the drummer, just letting the whole music overwhelm me, and just, you know, I play the drums. Haven't had a drum set for fucking 15, 20, 18, 19, 19 years. Not that I have anywhere to put it, which is why I haven't had a drum set for 19 years. But I would just watch their drummers, man. Oh, that's how you make those noises. I think. How is he? Just fucking crazy shit, man. Like, how long can he keep that pattern going? Fuck, he's making my leg cramp up. You know, like... glorious. And, you know, I wouldn't have gotten to experience that if I wasn't just in a pathetic fucking place in my life. I mean, pathetic. Just horrible, shit, destitute place in my life. I had just basically lost a house over 26 grand, $2,600. 2,600, not 26 grand, $2,600. Because I trusted my fucking dad when he said he was gonna put me to any college I wanted. And long story short, I wound up living in my fucking car. Yeah, didn't work out so well. I met this girl on Match.com. Yeah, like I said, pathetic. Pathetic. She was a good-looking girl. Kind of a bitch, but, meh. Status quo for my life. But I went to go live with her out there in Edinburgh, Texas. It's right by McAllen. And if it wasn't for that series of fucked up circumstances, and oh yeah, it gets a lot more fucked up the more detailed I would get with it, but I'm not going into it all right now. If it wasn't for that, I would have never got to go to those clubs. And it just amazed me. Every time we went, we'd just pick a different fucking random club, me and the girl I was with. Just driving around in the car that I was living in, my old Integra. And just like looking at the signs. Live band, let's go check them out. Awesome Mexican metal band. One after the other. And I remember that more than I remember all the different pathetic bullshit. That and some of the racing I was doing. But like, I had no idea about that little hidden treasure of the world. The fucking Mexican border metal bands. I had no idea. If it wasn't for all that bullshit I went through. Being homeless to the point of being willing to shack up with a girl I met on the internet. On Match.com, no less. On Match.com. Anyway. Like, at that point, I really felt like I had no free will. You ever feel like circumstances are overwhelming you? You know, it's a really depressing feeling. It feels like no matter what you do, you're fucked. You know, like you can't make a choice. There's no options. You know. Now, this is a horrible but effective example. At least I hope it's as effective as I think it's going to be. What if someone told you, convinced you, had a video clip, an audio clip, some kind of evidence? It was fake, but you didn't know it. Or maybe something real taken out of context, but you didn't know it. Enough to convince you that somebody had raped your sister. Now, obviously, if you're the brother, you're going to go beat that guy to a pulp, right? At that point, because of somebody else's actions, your actions have been determined. It's what we call the butterfly effect, right? Similar to it, anyways. So because of this thing that either happened or didn't happen, you think it happened, didn't really happen, you at the very least have to file a police report. You have to go interrogate your sister and make her fucking tell you about it. But more than likely, you gotta go beat the shit out of this guy. But what you're not gonna do is nothing. So you're taking action based upon a lie. You're overwhelmed with emotion and driven to action based upon a lie. Do you at that point have free will? Or has your free will been hijacked? Has the energy of your potential been stolen by the creator of that lie? Turns out he just didn't like that motherfucker and wanted somebody to beat the shit out of him. Well, turns out Obama didn't rape your sister. Neither did Hillary Clinton. In fact, America hasn't exactly been raping and pillaging countries. In general. It's not something that we've done. But there was a guy who wanted you to beat the shit out of Obama. So he lied to you and took your free will away. Just like there was a guy who wanted to beat the shit out of Jesus. He lied to you. On the one hand, the universe was created by accident and dust, like, sneezes or I don't know. Well, I do, but it's silly, so I'm going to pretend I don't. And on the other hand, church is an avenue by which liars get Cadillacs. Or molest little boys. If this is the information that you're given, what choice do you have? But if it's all a lie, if it's all a setup, if things are hyperbolized, blown out of proportion, made to seem significant when they're not. You know, like, for instance, the rate of different crimes in general among even the Catholic Church relative to the rate of similar crimes when compared to other institutions by the numbers. Oh, suddenly it doesn't seem significant. So is there something wrong with Walmart? Is there something wrong with the YMCA? Is there something, like, do we need to shut down public schools? We're not talking about that. But the Catholic Church, But you can't teach religion in schools unless it's our religion about how God doesn't exist. You understand that the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, formerly the Soviet Union's Foreign Intelligence Service, paid for and promoted and paid for people to agree with and paid for people to honor and praise and start bandwagon effects for these professors and theorists and teachers and scientists that taught how God never existed. And at the same time, they got behind every different version of Trumpism. So you might be able to understand why all those souls were in chains. Why the buildup of spirits who just did not know where to go was getting monstrous. And, to understand what I mean by them not knowing where to go, picture it a matter of judgment, or consider it a matter of judgment. Pass or fail to be reincarnated as a more enlightened being, to gain your enlightenment from this life as instinct in the next life, basically. That's a pass. Okay. To be ungrateful for your life, to reject the interactivity of spiritual reality and compassion and awareness and pursuit of truth and justice, and to degrade yourself. That's fail. Okay? But if the preponderance of information you receive that maybe even constitute brainwashing throughout your life has made it impossible for you to make a choice, a real choice, I mean an informed decision there, what the fuck is God supposed to do with you? More importantly, what is an appointed by God judge supposed to do with you? What is the Crystal Palace supposed to do with you? What is the goddess supposed to do with you? Can't necessarily let you pass on because you never developed those instincts. You may have had the potential to deserve it, but you can't be punished for what you had no choice. You didn't mean to beat the shit out of that guy. You thought he raped your sister. That cop's gonna have a hard time taking you to jail for that. But you're gonna be sitting in the back of that cruiser. Until the guy that you were beating the shit out of forgives you. It's funny how metaphors just always seem to work out for me. It's like a thing. You might have heard. Might have known me. Although, you know, if like an alien were to read certain parts of the Bible, they might think the human race was a series of sentient trees. What most people don't get about those metaphors is that they were kind of mocking how racist that particular house of Jews had become. But, yeah, whatever. I suppose with the preposterousness of so many of interpretations of different quotes, and how easy it is to see what the accurate interpretation is, it shouldn't be surprising that one would be so silly. Anyways. So I'm going to end the broadcast so I can stop chain smoking. Seems like a good idea to me. I think I've covered all the little topics from the burst of inspiration or perspiration or infrared radar or whatever the hell I was about to say. But let me see if anybody has eat another one, whore. Sounds like it would have been funny if I remembered what the hell you were talking about. Anyway. But yeah. So I'm sorry if I take too long explaining things. But I think the subjects that I talk about are worth taking the time to meditate on. So at the same time giving myself enough time to meditate on them and expand upon them in real time. I hope that you take the time to really enrich your understanding of what's real and what's possible with these little lectures. And so those who managed to watch and are still watching, appreciate it. And I hope one day more people can watch and that it connects people to what they came from again. And that basically can make this world a better place. Oh, wouldn't that be lovely? At least one where people weren't overwhelmed with influences that caused them to be shitty people, and at least had a proper upbringing to rebel against, Remember those days when you had like the proper upbringing and then you rebelled against that, and that was, your free will. You had the choice to be a shitty person. Now you're just kind of raised to be shitty people. Most people are just being raised to be shitty people. And by shitty people, I don't just mean assholes. I mean ignorant. Just ignorant. Like programmed in PCs. Might as well be. I mean, how many people do you see? If you're an enlightened person, and I assume you would be if you're not one of the monitors. You'd have to be at least enlightened enough to meet this criteria. You see these people, and you wonder if there's a single thought or reaction, a response to any stimuli that you could not just anticipate. Could anything they do surprise you in the least? Huh? No. Take a step back and remember that they have a soul. And pity them, because free will has been stolen from them. And pray for them. And pray for all of us. Because if the truth is not returned to its rightful place, all must be drowned in an ocean of chaos. Have a good night, y'all. Don't forget to click the like button and check back to see if your like disappeared. Click it again. And just make sure when you do, you say out loud, "I'm Rick James, bitch!"